What if love wasn't about chemistry, but about energy? What if the real connection between two people wasn't seen, but felt? Sometimes it's not the way he looks at you or the words he says. It's the silence between the words, the calm that settles when you're near. Because when a woman touches a man's soul, something shifts inside him. You don't just make him smile, you make his mind quiet. You don't just touch his hand, you reach the part of him that no one else could ever reach. It's not logic, it's not attraction, it's alignment. Psychology calls it limbic resonance. The moment two emotional energies synchronize so deeply, their nervous systems begin to breathe together. That's when his heart starts speaking in silence. He can't explain it. He just feels seen. And when that happens, when you've touched a man's soul, he'll never be the same again. Here are 7 undeniable signs that you've reached him in a way no one else ever has. Not his mind, not his body, but his soul. Sign 1. He becomes emotionally present, not just physically there. There's a quiet difference between a man who simply shows up and a man who's truly present. When you touch his soul, something changes in how he exists around you. He starts noticing the smallest things, your tone when you speak, the pauses between your words, even the silence you don't explain. He's no longer listening to respond, he's listening to understand. The world fades a little when you're near. The noise quiets down. He stops glancing at his phone. He stops rushing the moment. There's a calm that takes over. Not because you asked for it, but because his nervous system begins to recognize you as peace. Psychologists call this emotional attunement. When two people's emotional frequencies align so naturally that safety becomes a shared state. His heart rate slows. His body relaxes. He feels seen without having to speak. And that's when he realizes this isn't just comfort, it's connection. You've touched something far deeper than attraction. You've reached the part of him that finally feels safe enough to be still. A man can be drawn to many women. He can enjoy countless conversations. But he becomes present only with the one who touches his soul. Because presence isn't about time, it's about where his heart chooses to rest. Sign 2. He remembers what most people forget. When you touch a man's soul, he starts remembering things others overlook. It's not about trying to impress you. It's something deeper, something he can't help. He remembers the way you said his name that one time, the story you told half asleep, the color you wear when you're happiest, the small, quiet details that no one else even notices. He keeps them like sacred fragments of a world he doesn't want to lose. Because when someone truly affects us, memory stops being logical, it becomes emotional. Psychologists call this emotional imprinting, when the brain ties memories not to information, but to feeling. He doesn't just remember what you said, he remembers how it made him feel. You didn't just enter his thoughts, you entered his emotional rhythm, the unseen pattern that plays in the background of his days. And from that point on, every small thing about you becomes hard to forget. That's how emotional connection works. Facts fade, faces blur, but feelings stay. When a man remembers the smallest details about you without even trying, it's not coincidence. It's his soul refusing to let go of the moments that made it feel something real. Sign 3. His energy mirrors. Yours are, and when you touch a man's soul, something subtle yet powerful begins to happen. His energy starts to reflect yours. It's not forced and it's not conscious. It's instinctive. You'll notice how his mood quietly follows yours. When you're calm, he softens. When you're joyful, his energy lifts. And when you grow distant, he feels it, even without a word. That's not coincidence. That's emotional mirroring. The subconscious synchronization that happens when two people's emotions begin to move as one. Psychologists explain it as the nervous system aligning. His heartbeat subtly matching your tone, his emotions echoing your state. It's as if his body recognizes you, not as an external presence, but as part of his own emotional landscape. This is when connection goes beyond attraction. It becomes resonance. You've entered his emotional field. Your presence regulates his mind, calms his spirit, and gives him a sense of balance he can't explain. He may not say it out loud, but his energy will tell you everything. Because when a man mirrors your emotions, it means you've touched something deeper than logic. The space where his soul and yours begin to move in rhythm. And once that happens, no conversation or distance can hide what his energy already knows. He feels you. Sign 4. He shows you his unpolished side. When you touch a man's soul, something profound shifts. He stops performing. He no longer hides behind the mask of perfection or strength. Instead, he starts to show you the parts of himself he once buried. The insecurities, the fears, the quiet corners of his past he's never shared. This isn't weakness. It's emotional vulnerability, one of the rarest and most courageous forms of masculine strength. Most men are conditioned to keep their pain locked away, to smile through silence, to be the rock no matter how heavy life feels. But when his soul feels safe with you, he doesn't need that armor anymore. He begins to trust that your heart won't weaponize his honesty, that you won't see his cracks as flaws, but as proof that he's real. And in that safety, he softens. Not because he's fragile, but because he finally feels seen without judgment. He'll let you see him, not the version he shows the world, but the one that only exists in quiet moments. The man behind the strength, the boy behind the pride. And that's when you'll know you've touched his soul. Not when he gives you everything perfect, but when he trusts you enough to show you what's imperfect and still believes you'll stay. Sign 5. His peace depends on yours. When a man's soul connects to yours, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. His peace starts to mirror yours. You'll notice it in the smallest ways. He pauses before he speaks, as if reading your energy first. His tone softens when you're tired. He chooses calm over conflict, silence over sharp words. This isn't control, it's connection, the kind that exists beyond logic. Psychology calls it emotional empathy. When one person's nervous system begins to respond to another's emotions as if they were their own. He doesn't just care if you're okay. He feels it when you're not. Your emotions become the rhythm that shapes his own. If you're anxious, he feels unsettled. When you're at peace, he exhales without realizing why. He's not trying to fix you. He's aligning with you. Because when a man's heart truly bonds with yours, your energy becomes his emotional compass. He'll start protecting your peace instinctively, not to avoid arguments, but because your calm becomes the weather of his world. He feels safe when you do, and that's when you'll see it. Love not through grand gestures or promises, but through the quiet way he guards your serenity, as if it's the very thing keeping his soul still. Sign 6, he protects your emotional energy. When you touch a man's soul, his instinct to protect evolves into something deeper, quieter, but far more meaningful. He doesn't just guard you from physical harm, he guards your peace. You'll notice it in how he steers conversations away from negativity, how he doesn't let others speak poorly of you, or how he shields you from unnecessary chaos. This isn't control, it's emotional loyalty, the kind that runs deeper than words, deeper than promises. He's not trying to dominate your world, he's trying to preserve your energy. Because once a man's heart feels connected to yours, your emotional balance becomes sacred to him. He chooses peace over pride. He doesn't react out of ego, but responds out of care. Around you, he becomes mindful, not because he's walking on eggshells, but because he values the peace you bring into his life. Psychologists call this empathic protection, a natural instinct born when emotional bonds are strong enough to trigger protective responses. He no longer wants to appear powerful. He wants to be reliable, not to control you, but to honor you. When a woman touches a man's soul, his love transforms from passion into purpose. He becomes the quiet guardian of your emotional space, the kind of man who doesn't just want to keep you close, but wants to keep your heart calm. Sign 7. He feels your presence in his happiest moments. A man who's only reminded of you when he's lonely is still attached to comfort. But a man who thinks of you when life feels good, that's different. He doesn't miss you just in sadness. He remembers you in joy. When he wins something, hears a song you love, or sees a sunset that feels like your energy, your presence drifts into his mind, quietly and effortlessly, because you're not tied to his pain. You're tied to his peace. This is what psychologists call emotional imprinting, when someone becomes a lasting part of another person's emotional landscape. It's not obsession, it's memory carved into calm. Once a man connects with a woman on a soul level, she becomes his emotional anchor, invisible but unbreakable. He doesn't move on, he moves with you, because some connections aren't meant to fade. They evolve, and softly, silently, beyond distance or time. And when that happens, he no longer needs noise or validation. He feels your worth in the quiet moments, in the calm you bring, the silence you hold, and the balance you create just by existing in his world. Real love doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, it simply stays, steady, grounded, and true. So if this message touched your heart, subscribe to Factsworth, where we explore the hidden side of human connection, the psychology of love, attachment, and everything that words often fail to express. Because when you touch a man's soul, he doesn't just remember you in his loneliness, he carries you in his peace.